Thanks for tuning in today. You're in for a treat because our feature car this week is one of the more truly unique motor cars offered by any American automaker. With a blend of mechanical componentry by Kaiser Motors and styling by internationally acclaimed designer Darrin, the end product of these collaborative efforts is the stunning and incomparable Kaiser-Darrin Roadster you'll see here today. Only 435 of these beautiful two-passenger cars were ever built, ensuring that they were rare from the very beginning. Join us as the car's owner, Phillip Jelinek, walks us around the car and explains all of its unique features. Now, let's go for a ride. Hi everybody, this is Tom with If This Car Could Talk. We're at Benedict Castle in Southern California for a wonderful show. Great weather, a lot of beautiful cars. While we were looking for cars, we found this beautiful Kaiser-Darrin. And Phil owns the car, and he's going to tell you all about it. Thanks, Phil.
Hello. In 1946, Henry J. Kaiser, after coming off of building Liberty ships during World War II, he was an industrialist. He teamed up with Joseph Frazier to build cars. And so for the next 10 years, he was called the last onslaught of Detroit. And he built cars that were head and shoulders above everybody else as far as design. In 1953, the full-size Kaiser Manhattan won 8 beauty awards around the world. Was considered the most beautiful 1953 Kaiser Manhattan. That car was designed by Howard Dutch Darrin. Howard Dutch Darrin built this Darrin automobile, and it was the epitome of his creation. He was a coach builder by trade. And so if you bought a Packard, a Duesenberg, or any other high volume car, you bought a rolling chassis and you took it to a coach builder to build the body for the car. Well, he wanted to build the car, and story goes, he worked with fiberglass during World War II. So after the war, his daughter was getting out of her car in 1947. Somebody came by and took the door off, and he goes, the next car I design won't have that problem. So he patented the pocket door aspect of this car in 1948. It took him 4 more years to build the prototype. So he built 8 prototypes of this Kaiser-Darrin, and they took it to the New York Auto Show in 1952. In March of 1953, General Motors decided to go with fiberglass for their Corvette. They were the first into production, but when the Kaiser-Darrin finally made it into production in January of 1954, because the prototypes predated the Corvette, this became the first production fiberglass sports car built in the U.S. So now that you have some of the background, let's take a look at some of the unique features of this automobile. For first, as you're looking at the car from the front, the car doesn't look like it gets enough air to cool down the engine. There is a huge air dam underneath the front bumper, which allows for massive airflow.
Oh yeah.
All right, as we work around the car, you're going to see the Darrin dip. This is a design feature of all the cars that he built. He designed that little flare into it, and this car again epitomizes the Darrin dip. These doors are pocket doors. And what that means is they slide into the front fender. So if I take the handle and go down with it, the door moves in 1/4 of an inch, and then the door opens. And then I'll close it, and then I turn the handle and it brings the door back out. All right? This is called a Roadster. A Roadster does not have any windows. So what I would use is they had side curtains that would slit. They would put into a slit here and on the top frame. And that's how we would put the top on the car. We go back to the trunk area, and this is just a typical rear view of the car. You can take a look at the interior. Very typical of, well, atypical, because most cars in the early 50s did not have a padded dash. So this was unique. Virtually all of Kaiser's built had a padded dash, which is very, very unusual for early 50s and late 40s cars. All right, so as we move along here, this car also has a 3-speed manual transmission with an electric overdrive. You drive along as long as you're over 20 miles an hour, you lift your foot off the gas pedal and it would just shift into overdrive. And that's what allowed good mileage, and it just works and works really well. Let me open the hood. When looking under the hood here, Henry J. Kaiser in 1953 purchased Willis Motors, and this car's chassis and drivetrain is from Willis Motors. It's the Hurricane 6-cylinder motor. It's the 6-cylinder motor of the Jeep 4-cylinder motor, so they're the same basic motor. This is called an F-head. An F-head is different from a flathead, which is called an L-head, in that the intake valve is in the cylinder head, the exhaust valve is in the block. In a flathead or L-head engine, both valves are in the block. In a straight overhead valve engine, both sets of valves are in the cylinder head. So that's what this was, more of a transitional type of engine. Because this is Willis Motors, this is actually a Jeep radiator, and it's the only one of the cars that Henry J. Kaiser built that uses this Jeep radiator. They made 435 of them. Production was from January of 1954 until July of 54. Kaiser went out of the automobile business in 1955. These cars were built in Jackson, Michigan. Dutch Darrin, they couldn't sell the last 50 of them, and so he purchased them, brought them back to his shop in Santa Monica with the intention of putting V8s in. He originally designed the frames, brackets, to have dual exhaust because he wanted to put V8s in them, but Henry J. Kaiser, instead of investing the money to produce a V8, his partnership with Joseph Frazier was so that Frazier knew all about the automobile business. And in 1948, Frazier gave him 2 pieces of advice. In 1949, cut back production because the big 3 auto manufacturers are getting their redesigns after World War II, and build a V8 because the big 3 auto manufacturers would not sell V8s to the independent manufacturers. So Henry J. Kaiser had a V8 produced, in other words, a prototype, and then decided to go with an economy car called the Henry J, 20 years ahead of its time. The Henry J also used the Willis chassis and drivetrain that's in the Darrin. So a little bit different car, but that came with the 4-cylinder Jeep engine, and it was listed for about $1,300. The Darrin ran for about $36.95, something to that nature. The Corvette at the time went for $35.75, and a brand new Cadillac went for $3,200. So to give you an idea of how much a little bit overpriced they were, it's a lot of money back then. It doesn't sound that much different in today's market, but back then it was quite a bit.
This one is a beauty.
Thank you.
Thanks, Phil, for taking time out at a busy Southern California car show recently to inform all of us about your stunning Roadster. Tell us what you think of this bright red Kaiser-Darrin two-seater in the comments section. Next week, we'll be covering a very popular topic on this channel, cars and trucks of the 1950s. It's a follow-up to a video we did nearly a year ago. We got so many comments where viewers let us know where we were remiss in not including a certain model. Taking all of these suggestions to a blank sheet of paper, we tallied up all the suggestions and made a new video. This time, these 20 classic 50s vehicles were exclusively taken from your comments. It took a while for this eagerly awaited part 2, but here it is. That's next week, so don't miss it. See you then, and thanks for watching.